It's good tap water. I love tap water. Oh, hi there. So you probably want to make a good loadout in Team Fortress 2. Well, lucky for you, I have a few tips. I don't know actually how many tips I have. I'll come up with that in a moment. But I have a few tips for you on how to make really good loadouts from nothing in TF2.
Please.
Okay, so one of the things you generally see when you're just playing the game is people tend to just put on whatever cosmetics they own, because the majority of the people that play this game don't actually care about the hats, which is totally fair, right? But that's like half of the game to a degree, right? So the people that can at least afford craft hats or like whatever comes out in the recent cases, they'll just slap on whatever cosmetics they find. It's like, oh, look, a scout body cosmetic or a scout shirt cosmetic. And they think it's like, oh, I can just cram these together. They clip and they don't look good. And it's funny. There are some loadouts, don't get me wrong, that are funny. But you're not here for that. You're here to make a good loadout. So let's get started off of that. Don't do this. Try to keep your loadout simple. Okay, so if you know what I'm talking about in the last example, you can see I'm just wearing the Hermes, right? It's just a single hat. I'm not wearing any other badge. I'm not wearing a gift-giving badge. I'm not wearing the Professor specs. I'm not wearing any of the other cosmetics. So back in the day, this game only had one cosmetic slot, and then it was two, and then it was three, and some people are pushing for four, even though the game probably couldn't run that. Something to consider is some of the earlier hats were made to look good with only one slot, which is why I hold somewhat of a bias in believing that the older hats were better, because they were made to be fit with less. And as cosmetics got added, they became more complementary to the older hats as opposed to the current hats that are added, which are complementary to sets or newer hats. My point remains in that if you don't have anything to work with, try just using very small amounts of what you have. Let me give you another example. Alright, so as you can see here, we have just a normal medic with no hats or anything equipped at all. This is what some would consider to be the best way to play the game, and I agree to a degree. However, let's take a look at some normal run-of-the-mill medic sets you may have seen in a pub before. I'm not talking like overly generic, but just, things people who have at least a hint of creativity might dash on their loadout. Some of these are, kind of basic, edgy, but these two right here I want to show. So we have this airborne medic set. I crafted this all around the hat alone. The Dead of Night is a fantastic body cosmetic that is really generic, but it can save almost every loadout if you're missing that final piece. Now, the last set. Whew. Okay, so this right here is what I would consider a god tier loadout. And you're probably thinking, well, what's so good about it? There's barely anything like distinguishable, and there's not really any fancy hats. Well, it maintains that nice idea of a normal stock loadout, but it has flair. Not the cosmetic flair, but And the blood on the Archimedes really adds to the color scheme of the medic, to where this loadout is very minimally clashing with the personality and the character of medic, to where I think it's perfect. You could paint all of these cosmetics, maybe change the Archimedes to another thing that's small, and you would have a fantastic set regardless, because most of these cosmetics are non-conflicting. They're small, and you can tell from instantly the small pixel you see when the medic is standing far away. This is a great loadout. 10 out of 10. Okay, so regarding some of the last points I made, some of these areas are lacking some context, so it might come off as a little confusing. I'm going to try to fill those in really quickly. We're just going to do a little brief filling and then put a nice cap over it. So here's what I would recommend. Do not use pink or lime cosmetics unless it's the hat and unless the effect goes with the hat. So if you have like Terawatt, use lime. If you have circling hearts, use pink. Don't be the pink or lime guy. They usually are really annoying to play with or against, and not that they're good, but they're garbage and they're a bad teammate. Don't live up to that stereotype, because those paints already have stereotypes that you don't want to deal with, and they're ancient stereotypes that are not as belittling anymore. They're kind of funny. So if you're going to make a Lime Scout set, go ahead. You know what I mean. 2, for the love of God, if you're going to use paints, use team paints. Please. Use like team paints, but not like the really high bright ones. You know what I mean? Spy's suit is not the same as Scout's shirt. Those are different team paints you can use to match and make better. So, big 3. Watch your color usage. Use your colors correctly. Use less is more. Less is more. That's the big one. Less is more. You have one hat for Scout. Use only that hat. For the love of God, think outside the box and don't just equip everything you have. This will take you to a great distance, and people might even say great loadout in chat. Thank you.